So today, we're digging into the surprising psychology of remote work. We're going to skip right past the how to unmute yourself basics and get into what really makes virtual teams click or, completely fall apart. And it all kicks off with a statistic that, honestly, it completely reframes this entire conversation. It's a number that I had to go back and double check because it just felt huge. But it's the absolute reality of our world today. There it is. Over 80% of us, you, me, pretty much everyone, now works in some kind of remote or virtual team. This isn't some little trend anymore. It's the new default. It's just how business gets done now. And that leads us to this massive contradiction, right? Even though working this way is totally normal, almost nobody has actually been trained on how to do it well. It's like we've all been handed the keys to a new car, but the instruction manual is for a horse and buggy. We've just been thrown into the deep end. So let's start by really looking at the size of this gap, the gap between what we're all doing and how prepared we actually are to do it. This quote just hits the nail on the head. Companies went all in on the idea of remote work, letting people work from anywhere, but they totally forgot to build the most important part, the human infrastructure needed to make it all work without driving everyone crazy. And when you don't have that support system, you start falling into these invisible traps. These are the things that can completely sink a team, and you won't even see them coming. Let's dig into the first one. Oh man, we have all been there. The frozen screen, that robotic voice. You think it's just a small tech glitch, but its impact goes way deeper. This is what you could call the computer says no problem. Now, here's where the psychology gets really fascinating. In a real boardroom, a leader has presence. They command the space. But on a glitchy call, your authority is completely at the mercy of your Wi-Fi. When the tech fails, you don't just lose connection, you lose status. You go from being the person in charge to being, well, a nuisance. But here's the thing. As annoying as bad tech is, it's not the real problem. The biggest roadblock is the hardware between our ears. It's our own resistance to change. For most companies, the toughest part of going virtual isn't the budget or the time zones, it's getting people to update their own internal operating system. And this whole thing gets way more complicated when you've got people all over the world. We might think we're on the same page because we're speaking English, but we fall right into this hidden trap of cultural ambiguity, where the exact same words can mean completely different things. Okay, so you gotta understand there are two kinds of work. Technical work is easy. 2 plus 2 is 4, whether you're in New York or New Delhi. The laws of the universe have your back. But ambiguous work, strategy, creative ideas, that's different. If a boss says, be more aggressive, does that mean take more risks, or does it mean be a jerk in meetings? Without the cues of a shared office, those wires get crossed, and things can go south fast. So if those are the traps, how do we get out of them? Well, the answer isn't about buying better software. It's about being intentional. It's about deliberately designing the human connection. And the first fix might sound almost too simple. It's a tiny piece of equipment that can have this massive, outsized impact on how a team feels and functions. See, this is about more than just hearing people clearly. It's about something called cognitive load. When the audio is bad, your brain is working overtime just to decipher what's being said. Good headphones, they erase that friction. They create this sense of psychological immersion. You stop feeling like you're just listening to a computer and you start feeling like you're in the room, part of the actual conversation. All right, the next piece of building that human connection is fairness. And this is especially true with time zones. Look, if the team in London is always the one setting the meeting time for their afternoon, they're sending a pretty clear message. Our time matters more than yours. The solution? You have to rotate the inconvenience. It seems small, but it's a huge signal of respect, and it's how you build real trust. Okay, we've talked about the traps and some of the fixes. But now for the big question. Why even bother? I mean, if it's this hard, is it really worth it? And that brings us to this really powerful paradox. Well, for starters, the business case is a total slam dunk. You get to hire the best person on the planet, not just the best person who lives within driving distance. You get a more diverse team, which means better ideas, and people who are flexibility are happier and they stick around longer. But there's one more benefit that just changes the entire game. This is it. This is the number that makes every manager stop and listen. For all the fear about people slacking off at home, the actual data tells a story that is completely the opposite. Just let that sink in for a second.
Without all the office distractions, remote workers are so much more focused that they deliver, on average, 20% more. That's like getting a whole extra day of work out of every single employee, every week, for free.
But here's the double-edged sword. Is that 20% boost a good thing? Is it coming from genuine, deep focus? Or is it coming from a toxic, always-on culture where people feel like they have to answer emails at 10 o'clock at night just to prove they're working? That is the tightrope every leader has to walk right now.
So if you remember one thing, let it be this. Making virtual work actually work has almost nothing to do with what video call app you use. It's all about understanding people. It's about psychology. It's about intentionally designing a culture of trust and fairness, just like you would design a piece of software. And that really leaves us with the defining question of modern work, doesn't it? As we settle into this new reality, we have to keep asking, are we building something that makes us more connected and more productive? Or are we accidentally creating a world that leaves us more isolated and completely burned out? The answer? Well, it really just depends on the choices we make next.